All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where I venture my petty and ill-informed opinion about a variety of topics. Joining me, as always, is no one. Nikki had an invasive medical procedure yesterday, which I'm not going to discuss, and she's sleeping it off today. Kevin has heat stroke and is laid up, and Tom has COVID. So he's self-isolating and cannot be too loud. It's particularly annoying Tom having COVID because we were supposed to go camping next week, and that's going to have to be rescheduled. I was really looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. I've got my camping equipment out of mothballs. Dust balls. That's not even to say mothballs. I got my tent. I got one of them newfangled foldy tents where you just kick it and it just unpacks, which, okay, I did used to have one of the ones with the poles and the pegs and all that stuff, and yeah, kind of cool, I guess, putting it together, but the kicky tent thing is also kind of cool to me because it just completely unfolds in less than a minute. It's great. I love it. I'm one of those people that embraces newfound technology. Like cars, I prefer automatic cars to manual. Manual cars, I have this argument with my dad and my brother all the time. They're like, oh, but the clutch gives you more control over the car. Yeah, but also it doesn't stall as much when you're pissing about with the gears. And yeah, I've driven manuals for a large part of my life, and I do know how to use them and how to use the clutch and everything, but at the same time, just want an automatic. You just don't have to piss about, don't have to worry what noise the car engine is making and whether or not you should shift gears because the car does it automatically. Who's in the chat? We've got Rod, we've got SoFlo. No, Gabby, that's strange. I hope she's not dead. So yeah, I prefer automatic cars. I prefer foldy out tents. The only thing I don't really care for in the modern age is social media. I feel like that's been more of a curse than a blessing on mankind. Not because you get a bunch of teenage idiots trying to cancel each other, but more so because we know too much now. The world has become a lot scarier. And you can say, oh, yeah, but we're more informed. We're better prepared to fight it. Well, no, not really. And also, we can't trust anything now. I suppose that might be considered a good thing as well. It's good to know that most media is totally biased and corrupt. But at the same time, ignorance is bliss. Now we know we can't trust anyone. When COVID happened, speaking of COVID, because Tom's happening, we didn't even know if it was a real pandemic or not. We still don't. I still don't know. We saw lots of people were dying on the news and stuff, but can we trust that? I've had COVID. I mean, it wasn't that. It sucked. Don't get me wrong. It was like a flu, really. I had the chills. I didn't get a high fever. I did have a high fever, but it manifested as chills. When you're shivering and you can't get warm no matter what. I lost my sense of smell and my sense of taste. And it was a terrible time, but was it the worst thing that ever happened? Are there bears in England? No, not anymore. Used to be thousands of years ago, but no. We ain't got anything cool. No wolves, no bears, no cats. Well, big cats in the UK is, of course, our most famous cryptid, apart from the Loch Ness Monster, of course. But officially, there's no big cats. No wolves, no bears. I think our largest terrestrial predator is the grey seal. So we've got seals. We've got seals aplenty. I've always wondered why we don't have any great white sharks around British waters. In the winter, I get it; it's not warm enough. But in the summer, they follow the Gulf Stream up, and the waters are warm enough and there's plenty of food. And now we don't get them here. I mean, there have been unconfirmed sightings for a while. There was a rash of sightings in the 90s, I want to say, that followed the Scottish uh, west coast up. And that looked like a great white to me because there was a clear pattern that was clearly just a nomad, wasn't hanging around. I mean, we might get them. It's difficult to tell, isn't it? Given that not many people are looking for great whites in British waters, but occasionally scientists will tag a great white and it will look like it's heading towards England, and the newspapers will all make a big stink about it, but it usually turns around halfway and goes back. Usually coming from America, actually. South Africa's closer, and there are a lot more sharks there, great whites there than anywhere else in the world, but yeah. But no SoFlo, no bears in England. Kind of sucks. There's not really any room. England's tiny. Most US states are bigger than England. You have to remember. We don't really have the room for that kind of thing. It's weird to think, if you look back in history, and the British Empire, of course, that conquered a quarter of the globe, that we were that powerful when we're such a tiny little island in the middle of the North Sea. It never made any sense to me, but I guess we just had a really powerful navy. We just had to have a powerful navy because, we're an island nation. Of course, you could say the Spanish had an even more powerful navy. No, it's never made any sense to me. Maybe we were just like real bastards. I don't know. I should have paid. We never really learned about the British Empire in school. I learned about World War One and World War Two. I'll always remember that World War One was started because the Archduke of Hungary got shot. Don't know why I remember that specific fact. Trench warfare, of course. That just seemed like a really silly way of doing war. Both sides dig a ditch and lie in it. And how are you going to win that? Yeah, I'm glad that they knocked that on the head for World War Two. They were like, nope, we're not doing that again. That was silly. But there's a British TV show called Blackadder that says World War One happened because it was too much trouble not to have a war. And I kind of believe that if you look at the historical facts, because all the superpowers had this big army at the time. And, armies, if you're paying these people to make war, then they're going to make war. So I just figure, all the nations got their heads together and were like, let's have a big rumble. And then World War II, of course, nukes happened. I've had this argument so many times. I understand that the Japanese just wouldn't surrender, and the nuclear weapon was, let's deploy this. It's a new toy we want to play with. But I don't know. I always think about, like, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all the, kids that never had a say in anything and just boom, dead. And the pacifists and the people that didn't really care that Japan was at war, that were just keeping their heads down and getting to work every day. It's just, that's what when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, nuclear weapons, so cool. Now I'm just like, a lot of kids died. That's messed up. But, I guess the Japanese didn't give us Americans any choice. Well, I say the Americans. I'm pretty sure the Europeans backed them. I mean, just all of that. It's like World War II is like a football game where at the beginning you're absolutely sure which side's going to win, and then half time happens. That side you were backing is up like 5-0. And you're like, yeah, it's going the way I thought it would. And then in the second half, that team's coach makes a bunch of questionable plays and somehow they end up losing. I always say that we didn't win World War II, Hitler lost World War II, which is an important distinction, but I feel like he was an evil, evil man, but he was a brilliant tactician in his day, and it's a good thing for mankind he lost. Don't get me wrong, that would have set a dangerous precedent, letting a man like that rule unquestionably, but yeah, we didn't win, he lost. Like so many dumb decisions, allying with the Japanese when he knew they wanted to fight America, invading Russia in the winter. He must have just surrounded himself with yes men, and every time he had an opinion about something, everybody must have gone, "Oh yeah, that's really smart, mate. That's the right call." I just can't see. I mean, England had air superiority. Spitfires were much better than Messerschmitts. But, like, they had us on the ropes. Germany had Europe on the ropes at halftime. It just goes to show you, doesn't it, that you never can tell which ways history is going to go. So, a lot of theories popping around the internet about the Trump assassination. Most of my friends think it was a setup. Just like, okay. I mean, yeah, it could have been a setup, but on the other hand, there are a lot of people that don't like Trump. So, I don't know. It kind of been a liberal, surely, with their stance on guns. You know, they don't believe in guns, and I can't see Republicans taking a swing at him. This is me musing on theories on why it'd be a setup. Does the fact that he wasn't immediately put into a car after being shot, but pretty sure the Secret Service were just assessing the situation. Very strange. That's another example of social media being bad for mankind. We can't even know for sure if this was a genuine assassination attempt or what if it was a setup. And if it was a setup, why? Is he trying to get sympathy votes? Trump's never, ever gone for sympathy votes. You know, he's always ran a fairly straightforward campaign. He's always just been like, make America great again, which, you know, fair enough. I'm not pro or against Trump. I'm not taking a stand there because I'm a British, so my opinion doesn't matter. I'm just curious, you know, if anybody in the chat have any thoughts about this. Okay, so Gabby's talking about World War II still. Yeah, fair enough. I was talking about that for a while, but then my brain moved on to Trump. Not that there's any real connection between World War II and Trump. Just thinking about it. I mean, a lot of liberal friends I have compare Trump to Hitler, but nah. He would have, if he was like Hitler, he would have made his move during his first presidency. I think he is a patriotic American at heart, and I think he will respect the system. And the January 6th riots, you know, they weren't really. I feel like I'm venturing into stupid territory for right now, so I'm not going to. How about that? So, do people? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Trump is not Hitler. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. I think he's funny. I'll be happy when he's president again. If he's president again, he's a lot more amusing than Joe Biden is. Unless, you know, you find Joe Biden funny in the sense of, ha, this guy's president. Because, you know. Anyway. So yeah, if anyone's watching, chime off in the chat. Do you think it was the assassination was a setup or no? Maybe next time. Maybe when I don't have any hosts, I should go back to watching Bigfoot videos. But I can't face it anymore, guys. Be honest. I've given up on the Bigfoot dream. They just all blend together. It's just always a guy in a ghillie suit. And these days, they can't even be buggered to wear the ghillie suit. They're always just in a dark hoodie. And you can see the trainer, the sneakers in some of them. And it's just, is this what Bigfoot hoaxing has come to? Rick Dyer had a Bigfoot body in a freezer. And now here we are with this. People in dark hoodies wandering around. Gabby believes it was real. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't. I don't know. I don't know what I think. It could be. It could go either way. I mean, a friend of mine said that it had to be a setup because most Americans have guns and know how to use them. I know from personal experience that while a lot of Americans have guns, less than half of that actually know how to use them. And if that's offensive to you, I'm sorry, but SoFlo says he's hearing the Secret Service messed up. You mean they didn't properly secure the area before he started beginning his speech? That would be a cock up and a half. I mean, if I mess up at my job, I get fired. I can't even imagine what happens to you if you let your boss get shot. Non-fatally. So maybe that's just like probation, maybe a pay cut. But ugh. I don't even know if I'm allowed to make these kind of jokes, to be honest with you, but yes, okay. So the Secret Service did not do a proper job securing the area. That makes sense. I've always wondered why controversial leaders don't get shot more often, but I guess they check the areas, pretty thoroughly. Imagine, I know that he was shot, the shooter, and everything, but can you imagine like planning all of that and then messing it up right at the end if it was real? Just being like, this is it. This is my big chance. And then, pew, miss. No! On the other hand, I mean, like, they shot him, so it doesn't matter. I mean, he paid the price for what he was doing, but I don't know. I mean, nobody thought when Reagan got shot because Jodie Foster destroyed mankind, that was a setup. No one thought JFK's death was a setup. I mean, they thought it was a hit. Mind you, there is a lot of controversy around JFK's death, isn't there? Like a lot of people think it was a hit from the FBI or the mafia or a bunch of other things. Thinking about it, JFK's death is pretty controversial. And of course, Ronald Reagan got shot because of Jodie Foster's, desire to destroy mankind. But that's not a conspiracy. That is 100% fact, as proven by me several times on this show. Gabby says we have much less trust in the government. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. But if you have such little trust in the government, why are you electing someone for the government? As I have this conversation with my parents when they were voting in the last general election. They say the system's corrupt. It's all broken, so they're going to vote for one of the independents, not the Conservatives or Labour. And I was like, you think the system's broken, but you're still going to trust said system and vote. The only way to show that you have no trust left is if nobody showed up to vote. But they're so good at forcing us to do that. Because you've got to vote, because, if you don't vote, the people supporting the guy you don't want to win will show up, and then it will be, then your vote could have counted. How do you overthrow a government? Isn't that what the entire reason the Second Amendment exists? You're allowed militias and stuff, aren't you, for the reason? Yeah, exactly, Gabby. You really have to have no one show up. That is how you show you have absolutely no faith in the government, is if no one ever shows up to vote. You know what would happen? Like if no one voted. I wish we could see that. I wish we could create a system where that would happen. They're just like, nah, I'm not voting. There must be provisions written into like our government mandate and your government's mandates. Like, if no one shows up on voting day, what happens? Yeah, that's true, Gabby. Worms rule the planet. All right. Well, I think we've mused enough among my mental brain for long enough tonight. Hopefully, next week I'll have someone to talk to. I don't know. Oh, hopefully, I can't do it by myself. I just get anxious and I never know. And I run out of things to talk about. I did all right tonight when I wasn't looking at the screen and just pretending I was talking to myself. Don't judge me for that. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. And I will return next week. If no one shows up next week, I'm just going to find something to watch on YouTube and provide running commentary. I hate reaction channels, but I need something to bounce off of because I just can't think of anything. All right, guys. See you next week. Good night.